everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today I have something I found quite interesting to share with you. I was perusing the interwebs for more pictures for fashion edition, as one does, and I stumbled upon this day. And I kept getting distracted by the fact that Harry especially looks super off. So as I was quickly flipping through these pictures, he just seemed so out of place and looked so weird compared to his usual. Now, he does sometimes look a bit awkward. They both look a bit awkward sometimes. And he especially, as we've seen, like for example, at the polo match, sometimes has slightly inappropriate body language. He tries to be super playful at times, and then he looks a little like almost like he's lost sometimes, like he doesn't know what to do next, especially if he doesn't have someone right there kind of guiding him through or somebody with him, like a +1 type situation. But here he had Meghan with him, and normally we see them clinging on one another or Meghan kind of leading the way and Harry oftentimes, you know, as people have said, on the puppy dog vibe where he's just kind of following along or head down and just kind of calmly going about it. This seemed to be a little bit different. They're a little bit out of sync in these pictures, as well as Harry displaying some particularly odd body language. So let's go through these a little bit slower. For example, in this picture here, I don't even understand what he is thinking or doing. He is completely pointed away from whomever is speaking to him. He's looking not only back behind him and over his shoulder, but he's refusing to turn his shoulders, hips, or feet around to face the person who's talking to him. He's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. You know, like a teenager would on the way out the door when you're like, hey, don't forget to, you know, call me after school. And they're like, yeah, you know, they don't really care. That's what this gives. His hands are on his hips, one finger towards the pocket of his pants there, and again, just everything is pointed away from the situation. At the same time, we see Meghan has her feet pigeon-toed a little bit, but facing nearly the opposite direction from Harry, and her shoulders are trying to face the person who's talking to them. She is giving her typical body language here, the hands a little too high up, and elbows a little too far out, slightly awkward feet position, and the face, whether you think it's genuine or not, is at least attempting to be pleasant and engaging. I think the lack of sincerity is what often comes through, even though she is checking the boxes of smiling, raising eyebrows, you know, facing the person. So we have that here in this one. We also see sometimes Harry just looks somewhat deflated. He looks like he doesn't want to be there. The fact that their body language doesn't match up as much in these pictures is telling, because they are often so clingy with one another during this time. We see here Harry, despite holding onto her hand and stuff, just seems to be kind of plodding along. His walk, his gait seems just a little bit more discouraged than usual. Here, I am not sure what's happening here, if he lost his balance. At first, I wondered, like, did Harry smoke before this day or something? Like, is he high? I don't understand, because I couldn't, this particular picture really threw me off. I was like, okay, what's happening? It looks like he lost his balance or something, and Meghan Markle is there to like catch him or something. I don't understand. And then here, he's done this stance before where he sort of cocks one hip out a little bit. It's a very awkward stance, especially for, you know, a grown man like this. But it's not necessarily fully uncommon, but the fact that he's also just kind of got both hands on hips, he's kind of looking down, his smile seems a little bit forced. His outfit though on this day is actually not that bad. I like this blue on him. It's a bright choice and it's something different that we don't usually see him wear. So I actually liked his outfit. Hers, you guys know I don't like these shirt dresses. They give a messy look. They look a bit unkempt. They look too casual, and they draw a lot of attention to the upper center of the torso. But I do like her earrings. So there's something. They were pretty, and I think that they were from a local designer, and I think that they were an affordable brand as well, which is nice. I do think something, if she just would gravitate towards more A-line stuff, it would just enhance her figure a little bit better, and to avoid belts or to only stick with very flat monochrome belts would be the better option. So this was their last day in South Africa, and they did have Archie with them here on this trip. So I was just super curious what was going on in the press right before this day or on this day. Like, what was happening? I was so thrown off by the way he especially looked, because he wasn't like jovial or giggly. He looked moody and out of place, more so than usual. So I looked it up. The day before these pictures were taken and this event was going on, they had announced the lawsuit over the daddy letter. And Harry, without consulting anybody official or anybody at the palace or anything like that, put out this really ranty statement about how badly Meghan had been treated. But look at these glowing headlines from regular and big publications alike that were coming out leading up to this day during the South Africa tour, because we have facts to prove that he was really just having a tantrum. The Queen will be delighted by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's success during their uniquely informal and brilliantly unorthodox Africa tour, a royal expert claims. Meghan and Harry have been unusually informal for royals during their trip to Africa, seen hugging and dancing, and Meghan opted not to wear her engagement ring. The Queen is said to be delighted by success of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's tour. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams says the response to the couple has been electrifying. I mean, that is a pretty snazzy headline and bullet point for this article. That is glowing, if there ever was a glowing headline. It says that they have ignored traditional protocol and offered a brilliantly unorthodox approach during their 10-day trip to Africa, according to an expert. So this was the 30th of September, so just a couple days before. There were really positive articles out about Meghan Markle's outfits, which again, I have told you guys, a lot of the times the articles will just be saying that the outfits are great, because what are they going to do? Criticize and then get in trouble or seem like they're being rude for giving an honest opinion on an outfit? There's headlines about Meghan Markle's visits. There's headlines about Harry's visits. They are all positive, and most of them are about the actual charity or work that they were doing, except for there was a lot of headlines about Archie meeting Desmond Tutu. So there was quite a few fluff pieces that were about that engagement and that debut of Archie on a tour, which was a big deal for people. Besides that, it was all targeted towards the charities they were there to highlight and the trip itself, the work that they were doing, like you would expect from a royal tour, and they were all positive. Until October 2nd, Duke and Duchess of Sussex made their final stop on the royal tour of Africa. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stand united against the press. Harry and Meghan are standing strong. Less than 24 hours after they announced they are taking legal action against the Mail on Sunday, they made a united appearance for their final day of their royal tour, visiting a township in Johannesburg. On Wednesday, they arrived holding hands, typical. The royal couple's tense relationship with the press was visible Tuesday as Harry chastised a reporter for asking a seemingly harmless question as he left an official engagement. He frowned and told the journalist not to make it like this. How dramatic. As he ignored the question and climbed into his Range Rover. Prince Harry's biographer, Penny Junor, said Wednesday that she understands why Harry wanted to protect his wife, but added this seems like an over-emotional and somewhat ill-advised outburst. Yes, there were also other rumors that he literally said, well, we didn't invite you to the press on the last day also. As their visit concluded, they were set to meet with and they got lost. They made these two wait forever and said that Harry and Meghan got lost on the compound. I would wager they were arguing and couldn't show up on time. And look at Harry's totally fake smile. He's so disappointed and annoyed with having to do this here. But the headlines leading up to this, especially about the tour, were all super positive, despite super awkward moments like this one where Meghan sits down and no one jumps up to join her, because some of them are with super little babies. The moms are finally sitting down, let them be, because it's a crowded area. Perhaps they're gonna chat first and then play, I don't know, but it was awkward. And yet I still couldn't find any negative headlines about it. I'm sure there were a lot of negative comments about it because, you know, this was a mistake. She shouldn't have jumped to, let's all just sit on the floor. Sometimes if you are sitting in a chair, your babies aren't whining or crying or fussing, and you're comfortable, The last thing you want is to have to resituate in a different location a few minutes in, especially with cameras there and stuff, and you have a baby, maybe you're wearing a dress or a skirt. It's not easy. So she should have maybe not jumped to suggesting getting on the floor and let the aides or the people in charge of the event instruct people on what to do next. Just saying, it didn't go over that well. If it had gone over well and everybody got onto the floor and were like, cool, this is really neat, it would have been a moment. But it didn't happen that way, so that signals maybe there was more to the story. But even that didn't spur negative headlines. A little bit before the South Africa trip, there was criticism because they had just taken like at least three holidays complete with round-trip private jets and a subsequent lecture to the public on climate change. So people were saying that they were being hypocrites and were calling that out. Of course, naturally, that is to be expected from the public. Also, they kind of misunderstood the public interest in the godparents. They had refused to release information about who the godparents of Archie were, and I genuinely think that those types of questions and wanting to see Archie and, any of the royal babies is rooted in a well-meaning wanting to know the United Kingdom's royal family. Being able to enjoy that positivity with the family, feel that connection. But Harry and Meghan took it as intrusive and refused to name the godparents, which was just a silly hill to die on. Like, really, if you're going to pick something to be really weird about, it probably shouldn't be who the godparents are of all things. Kind of gave off the vibe that they were like unwilling to throw the peasants a bone is sort of the feeling that people got from it. It was rude, it felt elitist, it felt better than you sort of a vibe, and people really didn't like that. Also, they had just renovated Frogmore, which was millions of pounds to renovate, and for goodness sakes, if the public has done that for you and your family, and then they want to know who the godparents are and you're being super weird and rude about it, maybe they didn't have godparents picked out because nobody wanted to be friends with them anymore. So what more could be happening behind the scenes to make Harry behave this way? People say he shouldn't have had to contact the palace before releasing his bitchy statement to the media. But common sense and me disagree completely with that. He was representing the monarchy. They were working royals. That's your job. You have a PR heavy job. You don't get to just put out statements all by yourself that can affect the entire company, or in this case, institution. You don't get to do that. Just like, if they make comments about certain products or other companies or banks or, insurance providers, like, they're not allowed to do that. That can have real financial impacts to the economy of the UK. So there are certain things you are not allowed to say and do when you have a job that is very PR heavy, or you are a super powerful person or super high profile. And they were literally representing, their job was to go on behalf of the Queen and carry out something the way she would if she were there. Essentially a stand-in. And that means you wouldn't do or say anything about yourself or anything controversial because you're supposed to be unifying. Once they decided to release or announce that they were going to sue the Daily Mail and were going to launch this big vendetta against the press and put out that statement and put out that really complainy, overblown, oversensitive, unrealistic statement, once they had done that, literally all the positive PR from that trip went out the window. Could you imagine how frustrating it would be to be part of the PR team for the monarchy on October 2nd, that day, seeing that Harry had put out this statement and that Meghan and Harry had decided to launch this lawsuit and put all this info on the very last day. They had built up the trip, done all the organizing and logistics of the trip. They had spent, at that point, 9 days getting good PR for the charities, for the causes, for the people of the South African countries that they were visiting. Harry also went to Botswana and stuff. But no, they literally went and erased all of that. They just took it all away. All the work that those teams had done, all of the charities that had gotten the light shown on them for once, all of the community building and unifying types of engagements that they had done and the relationship building they had done with the diplomats down there, All of that went out the window the second Harry and Meghan started talking about themselves, like the nobody's asked me if I'm doing okay, launching the lawsuit, and throwing a temper tantrum in a press statement from Harry. All of those things just erased all of that work. Of course the palace was going to be mad about that. So maybe Harry was all out of sync like that because he had been fighting with Meghan. Maybe because the palace, Granny, everyone was upset back home. It was kind of the look of a guy who had just stepped in it and was about to walk into a shitstorm. It was a little bit of that look. But the lack of synchronicity from Meghan and Harry signals that perhaps he resented her a little bit for, in that moment, for kind of taking them down that path. She probably goaded him a little bit. She said she was, maybe she said she was going to do the lawsuit no matter what, or said he needed to stand up for her in some way, or that she was just going to have to fight the Daily Mail all by herself. You know, who knows what she did or said, but perhaps she riled him up some. He needed to do something about these negative stories, of which there were only valid criticisms. I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. It seemed like one of those moments where you walk into a room and people are having a tense conversation. That's kind of the body language that these two had this day, more than I have seen on any other day. And obviously, what they did was a bad choice because they did throw away a lot of the hard work that a lot of people had put in to make that tour a success. So that was really not nice. And I'm sure everybody was pissed off at that point, and it was really the beginning of throwing a bomb on any potential of having a good relationship with the public, with the royal family, with Harry's family. They really were just kind of doubling down at that point and sent a message of, we really don't care about anybody else at all. Nobody else's effort, nobody else's work, nobody else's jobs, nobody else's time. None of that matters. Maybe he was second guessing and like, oh geez, did I take this too far? Is this the right thing? So tell me what you guys think in the comments. I would love to hear. If you're interested in any of the makeup products that I use to get ready today, they will be in the products tab just below. Thank you so much for being here with me. Please do subscribe, share this video, and click the like button if you enjoyed today's video. And if you are not yet subscribed, I would love to have you as part of this community. Thank you again for being here with me, and I hope that you have a happy day. I'll see you next time. Bye!